Hey y'all, sup? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me I have some more RPG horror stories. A nice primer on what not to do in your own stories and what to look out for. Listen, I get it. RPG horror stories, they are crazy. Some of them are insane. Some of them are unbelievably insane to the point where you think like, why are you still playing this game in the first place? Through all the complications and through all the tribulations that everybody else goes through, and through reading people's experiences, we get to learn some new lessons of what to look out for and what to not do at your current games. Though I feel like some people are still going to be problems and they're going to keep doing that stuff, but either way, that's neither here or there. Let's get our first RPG horror story lesson for today. Player tried to sneak in overpowered homebrew Cantrip. Short post. As the title says, one of the players in the group, IDM4, took a homebrew Cantrip for his warlock and let him roll 6 D12s as a bonus action without even a material cost, ritual, or concentration at level 4. So, you thought he could bring your busted homebrew into the campaign. Let's read more. He never even asked if homebrew was okay and seemed upset when I told him he needed to switch that spell out for something in the books. Wild to me that some people get upset when you won't let them be so overpowered that it destroys any semblance of difficulty balance. Also, I now feel like I should look over his character sheet to make sure he isn't trying to sneak other pieces of frickery in there. Good, you really should. And for the warlock player, why are you grabbing something so busted when you can just grab something so easy? If you want to do something as a bonus action, grab Hex. Actually, I hear in the new 2024 books, Hex is just going to be a spell that every warlock starts with at this point. They'll have Eldritch Blast, and they'll have Hex. So just a Hex, Eldritch Blast, and Eldritch Blast. And then if the enemy dies, Hex another person, Eldritch Blast, and Eldritch Blast. You don't need no busted homebrew 6D12s. Oh, a little bit of relief just to get all the horror stories out of the way. Something a little more silly. All right, you ready? Let's lock in and get to the next story for today. Surprise pregnancy by DM without asking. So I'm a beginner player, female, and this happened in one of the campaigns I recently joined to start getting into D&D. Summarizing, the DM first told me my character was going to have a dream and asked me if I could follow the flirt with the NPC who was going to appear there, because it was a thing for the plot. I said sure, no problem. Later in the session, it was not just a flirt. He basically narrated how the NPC took my character to bed, started undressing her, and then did a fade to black with obvious implications. At this point, I was uncomfortable, but also said nothing, my bad there, and just joked in character about it when she woke up with the real marks on her neck, also narrated by the DM. It was also kinda implied that my character was charmed or under some weird effect, because he said, I was suddenly very attracted to the stranger. And well, there was no other logical reason for my character to F with a random dude who appeared in her dream. Wow, that's a really sleazy way to start a campaign. Jesus Christ, dude, your DM is a creep. Massive creep. This is unsettling. Next time that happens, immediately call it out and say, nope, doesn't happen, not a thing, no fatal black, no nothing, none of this sexual stuff happens because I said so. Good lord, what a creep. Well, next session ends with another NPC whispering to my character, but you're not alone, which kind of made me a suspect. But I was stupid, I just thought, nah, no way, who would do that? Well, he would. Now, this last session ended with a big bad boy, main villain, taking my character's hand and moving it to her belly so she could feel a heartbeat she knew wasn't hers. That's literally the suspenseful moment he ended the session with. Surprise! Pregnant! Does this DM have like a pregnancy fetish or something? I swear it's a kink. I swear, this is only happening because, ooh, girl in game, let's make her pregnant because my pregnancy kink. I'm betting you the DM has a pregnancy kink. That's why they're doing it. They just want to get somebody pregnant. I knew I should have speak up as soon as I suspected it, and it's kind of my fault for that. I didn't stop him in time. But holy crap, he never asked me about this. They didn't ask you about this, but almost my question is not necessarily to you, but the other players. Didn't they not speak out? Did they not seem it's weird? Maybe they were at the table, they were kind of clueless as well. They were like, well, I suppose they probably agreed to it. Maybe. I don't know. Such a weird situation. What a weirdo the DM. I would have not accepted this as I am really uncomfortable with pregnancy topics involving me or any of my characters. Am I being too dramatic or exaggerating if I want to just leave and block the guy? Feel kinda sad because the other players are nice and fun to play with, and I really hate conflict, and I feel like I'm the bad one for abandoning the campaign. But I'm extremely uncomfortable with the DM right now. PD, Curse of Strahd campaign. Of course it's Curse of Strahd. What else would it not be? Of course it's gonna be Curse of Strahd. Why is all the weird campaigns, like the most weird campaigns, happen in Curse of Strahd? Because of the vampires. It's the damn vampires. It's damn Strahd. Imagine the person they're playing, like that got him pregnant, it's probably Strahd themselves. Ugh. The dream dude was Strahd in disguise. I called it. I should have read a little bit further. I called it. And while he wants an heir, so you're pregnant now, so you made this a main plot thing, Lamau. PD2, I'm asexual, so it's extra awkward, lol. Yeah, you should definitely talk to the DM and just talk to the table and just be straight up and honest saying, I do not want to have my character pregnant. I do not want this pregnancy arc. I'm not interested in it. I just want to play my character as they are. No pregnancy or nothing. I never agreed to it, never consented to it, and I'm continuing to play if you could just retcon the whole pregnancy thing and just continue on. Because if it's not gonna be fun for you, if you don't want to deal with the whole pregnancy arc, then you don't have to. Maybe talk to the other players, ask them maybe they were, I don't know, pressured into specific arcs they didn't want to be. Maybe the entire crew is just all pregnant from Strahd. I don't know what's going on, I don't know what's happening. But clearly you need to speak up about it and say you're just not interested. If it's gonna continue, I guess you could just drop out then. If there's really no way to salvage it, you know? Wishing you best of luck. Let's continue with the rest of the stories. New player decides that he wants to be a fantasy racist. So this happened quite recently and isn't half as bad as some of the other things I read on here, but was still rather annoying. Apologies if it's long, I have no ability to self-edit. You know, every single story that says it's not as bad as the other ones, it usually means it's gonna be just as bad if not worse. I ran an RPG meetup group and met a nice bunch of people that wanted to try D&D, and despite it being one of my least favorite games, I've played it for around 20 years and know it pretty well. So I knew I would give them a really good introduction to it, and they all seemed pretty fun. I wanted to hang out with them more. In fact, I just started dating one of them, so I may have been trying to impress her a little. I decided to run this Stranger Things starter kit adventure because a few Christmases ago, due to a misunderstanding with an Amazon wishlist and my family being idiots, I got 3 copies of the thing and had never found a chance to run it. Ahead of the game, I told my players, 5 of them, that they shouldn't go for any wild monstrous races and should make heroes who just want to be good in a realm, so that we didn't have to deal with someone being an evil or horrible character who just wouldn't be on an adventure or working with a party. I remade the characters with a lot of help from me, and we met up to play. You can still make those monstrous races, and just as long as the party works well, it should be just fine. At the end of the day, you just still need to outline to the party and just to everybody at the table what sort of campaign you want to run. If you don't want to be dealing with evil characters being evil, say that straight up, and that will help your players create characters that could fit the campaign. For the intro, I gave some safety tools and we discussed any lines and veils as I usually do. I always mention that I don't want any homophobia, transphobia, racism, sexism, or any of that rubbish in my games. I said that while many D&D games might have racism built into it because of the different races, it wasn't a theme we were going to be exploring in this 2-shot adventure, which I'm using to teach the rules, and that it would be great if you could just assume that your characters were going to get on. In fact, there's no reason to bring race up at all apart from those specific abilities. Enter John. He said he had played D&D once a while ago, couldn't remember the rules much, but was excited to play. He made a half-orc sorcerer who was a tribal shaman who'd come to spread the wisdom of his people. All good by me. He sent over his character sheet, which wasn't made correctly, so I sent him some feedback and advice to help him out. Then he would change things, completely ignoring what I had said. This means it took a little while to make his character, but I didn't get annoyed. Some people just don't absorb written information very well, and can be a little complicated when you're making a spellcaster. After I had introduced the characters in the adventure, go and hunt down the Thessal Hydra, he had attacked farms in the town, then goes off back in the woods, but the tracks mysteriously disappear. Ask the characters what they want to do. It starts weird with John instantly taking over the group, loudly telling them that we need to look around to find the swamp. Everyone's very confused as I'd never mentioned a swamp. He's so confident about it though that suddenly everyone else thinks that maybe they weren't listening and had missed something. He's so confident that I flipped back through the book and checked the mission in case it did mention a swamp, and I just didn't notice. It didn't. After correcting him, they get back to discussing the plan. Then he ramps up a bit more. As the characters start trying to interact, he turns to the only other guy in the group, an elven rogue who had been introduced as a folk hero, vigilante-style character who is much loved by the common folk in the land, and says something along the lines of, "Well, you're a knife-eared prick, aren't you?" He continues to badger the rogue, accusing him of being a thief and a sneaky little elf, as well as some other racist stuff about elves. I was taken aback and asked why he was being so hostile, and his defense was, "Well, I'm an orc, so I hate all other races." Even though the DM clearly said that I don't want to explore that sort of thing, you decide, I'm gonna make my character racist against elves. As somebody who has a wood elf character, my character Rin, I actually don't really mind people call me a knife ear, especially if it's like a bantery way, right? Like if a dwarf calls him knife ear, he'd be like, yeah, it's fine, it's so cool. I understand, that's just, you know, the lingo. He doesn't take offense to that sort of thing. If it's like with somebody close, right? Rin would just not care. I personally, I think knife ear is kind of a funny thing to do. I mean, I guess I could be called a knife ear too with my trying to find my ears. There we go, my pointy little ears. Except I'm more like a devil spawn. And even then, I like devil spawn for tieflings. I as a tiefling, I'm Morrow's tiefling. Don't appreciate when people call me devil spawn, but me, Morrow, out of character, I think it's kind of fun. It helps create that dynamic and interaction. Fantasy racism can be fun as long as people agree with it. But if the DM says, hey, please don't be a racist, you probably shouldn't make a character that's gonna be a racist. Or if you agree with the player ahead of time, that's how your characters interact, you know, call each other like little nicknames, not playful nicknames, but like more teasing nicknames, I think it'd be fine. Like a dwarf and an elf traveling together, one calls the other one stunty and the other one calls them knife ear. I think that's kind of neat because that's the dynamic. That's the dynamic that shows. And they're not using it for like a derogatory term. They use it more like a, I don't know, playful nickname. Is that okay thing to say? I don't know. Either way, let's continue. I clarified that racism was not a big thing in this game and wasn't a thing for orcs in this land. And also that he wasn't an orc, he was a half-orc. And also, you wouldn't have any idea that this character is a rogue, so you are just accusing someone of being a thief for no reason. This didn't stop him until the guy playing the elf said in character, "If you continue to say such racist things to me, then I'll literally kill you." He then left him alone. I hope that was in character, not out of character, because that would be an escalation. Throughout the rest of the game, he continued to talk over everyone. The girl I was dating didn't get to say anything at all because whenever she would try and offer some advice, he would ignore her and shout over the top of her. Yeah, probably would have been a good idea to clamp down on that as soon as it happens. I mean, if the guy's gonna start problems immediately, I'll probably keep a watchful eye and spring up anytime he's doing something bad, just to correct the behavior or, I don't know, let the guy know that you're not gonna tolerate this sort of behavior. Immediately when you see it, if you say something immediately that tells him you're not gonna tolerate it. When they got to a cave, he made half the party go in ahead of him to check if it was safe, while he waited outside. Then went in to check the first room was empty, and then one of them said, "Should we go back and get him?" And all of them thought for a second before saying, "Maybe, let's just check the next room just in case." I got the impression that their characters, and possibly them, were just happy to have a break from the guy. He didn't pick up on this, however, and while they were doing all this, he was very loud having a conversation with another member of the party about stuff unrelated to the game. This became a recurring thing. Him talking non-stop when it wasn't center of attention, us trying to continue and be heard over him, and then all of us having to explain what had just happened again when it got back to him, and then having to explain a third time because he didn't listen to the explanation. If the guy is willing to be intrusive and interrupt and talk in between when everybody else is paying attention, that's something you probably should have clapped down immediately on. Some people are going to be selfish and going to want to talk about themselves or whatever that's important to them, or something that's completely off topic. But as a DM, you have full reins of the situation, and this is the moment we gotta just rein it in. And immediately when you notice bad behavior, you gotta clap it, say stop it, knock it off, I'm not gonna tolerate it, do it again, and you're out. Immediately. And especially with people like this, right? This guy clearly is really disrespectful, extremely disrespectful, probably one of those guys that likes to listen to himself talk. You gotta clap that down by saying this is your table, you're the DM, you're not gonna tolerate interruptions, gotta make it direct, very direct with this kind of guy. At the end of the session, I asked how everyone thought he had gone, and people remarked on how forceful his character was, and his excuse was that no one else was saying anything, so I thought I should take the lead. I mean, he didn't wait for anyone to say anything before speaking. When people tried to speak, he would just shout over the top of them. He also complained that he never got the chance to do anything in the game, even though he made the decision not to go into the dungeon because he was a squishy sorcerer who would die immediately. After the first session, I checked in with everyone else privately. The feedback was that they enjoyed it but struggled to concentrate with him constantly talking over the top of them, and I felt uncomfortable with the casual fantasy racism that he threw around. I readied myself to have a "don't be a racist, don't talk over other people" chat at the start of the second session, a chat I thought I would need to have, but luckily he was ill and didn't come. I mean, yeah, he was ill now, but in the future you should probably have that conversation and tell him that his behavior is not going to be acceptable. It's not going to be tolerated. He's not allowed to just yell and shout over others and just casually be fantasy racist when you are not running any game with any sort of fantasy racism. If you don't want to run a specific theme or you don't want to have to deal with it, then you are allowed to as a DM. You set the standard on what the game is going to be about, on the do's and don'ts of what's going to be happening, and then communicate with the rest of your players to figure out what's going to work for everyone. And if you're not cool with fantasy racism and having to deal with that sort of stuff for the game, then you don't have to. Either way, I'd still prepare yourself for that conversation, because I feel like if the guy's going to be sticking around, you're probably going to want to play more games, and you need to have that conversation with them and tell them that it's just not going to be tolerated. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.